Greetings, everyone. Welcome. You are now tuned into the podcast of Journey of a Healed Success Stepper. I'm Dr. Dorina Shine. I'm so grateful that you are here with me today. This is the podcast of Dr. Dorina Shine, and our mission here is to explain the challenges that we face, that you're not alone, and to help assist in those processes. You know, everyone goes through a life challenge every now and again. And I am super elated to all my success steppers for being a part of the process with me, the growth process. I also want to share that the Congress is looking into the Global Initiative for Intervention and Prevention Act of 2025, whose mission is to help with covert prescribing, also known as lacing. And that's coming up. That is going to, it's time that we create a global initiative. So when people do talk about lacings and, things like that, they're really looked at as not just another addict or not just someone who has these experiences of substance use or who has a mental illness. Yeah, everyone has a mental illness. I truly believe that. And I truly believe that people in the mental illness capacity are doing their ultimate best to secure those with options and just resources and different things like that. So I want to put that out on the board today. Thank you so much for my success steppers who are continually sending emails. You can email me, shinedorina@gmail.com. But today I want to get into a specific topic. I had a great conversation and someone asked, well, how do you alchemize? How do you change or shift an embarrassing moment that happened in your life? What are your processes to doing that? And when I thought about it, the first thing that came to mind is that everyone goes through this. I'm not alone. And that's the first thing that we must realize. So as I'm sharing in the conversation, I think this is very important to share with you today. So there are 4 key components to what I do whenever I'm facing an embarrassing moment. I know, number 1, that I'm not alone. I know that, I found myself here. So what do I do about it? Okay. That's a very wonderful place to be, because now you're not just staying stuck and stagnated in the embarrassed moment. You're working on it. You're progressing it. And a lot of times things just pop in just to remind us, hey, you got to work on that. It's kind of like putting a little sticky note up saying, hey, don't forget to do the A, B, and C. So that's what this podcast is for today. So shout out to Daylin. Thank you so much for that conversation. It was wonderful. And shout out to you. So when we go to alchemize an embarrassing moment, the first thing we do is acknowledge that embarrassing moment exists. Yes, at that particular moment, like for me, and I just use myself as a prime example because I've always used myself as a case study. Everything that I speak about is public knowledge. Everything is real in my world, so why not express it, right? So acknowledging that I was walking a path of success, but somehow ended up in a path that was leading to failure. How did I do that? How did that ignite in my world? How could I be going success and end up in failure? So I ended up working my business, and then eventually, I ran into a 30-year criminal situation. I'm like, how did I get here? So I had to acknowledge that, yes, I trusted the wrong people. Yes, not saying you need to be paranoid or anything like that, but I'm just saying your network is very important. And sometimes it is so important that you have to value what you see in that network. And if you hear things of where you're speaking good positive energy and all of a sudden they're huffing and puffing, or they run from it, or they don't want to hear it, pay attention to those little precursors, because those are really truly red flags. But anyway, acknowledging that the circumstance happened, that's what I had to do. And that was the hardest thing for me to do, because to acknowledge that I failed while walking down the path of success, it made me look a little bit unhinged. It made me look, a little bit psychotic in a way. But the reality was, it was not all me. It was an inducement of things that surrounded that situation that created a devastating moment within a successful process. So be very mindful of those who you share your success with, because a lot of people are not going there. A lot of people are not challenging themselves. So you have to acknowledge that as well. So acknowledgement is the first thing. The second thing was working on me. And I remember being incarcerated those 18 months and then those 41 days in between, total. And I say to myself, and for those of you who want to know my story, you can go to my YouTube page, Dr.Dorina Shine, and you can look on a playlist, Journey of a Healed Success Stepper, Emotional Steps to Success. You're going to find the 12 steps that I use to bring myself back to the reality that I was worth it. Okay? So that's what working on yourself actually helps you perform. The ability to feel that you are worth it. And that just because you're walking down the path of success and you may have haters here, there, everywhere, that has nothing to do with you. Once you've fallen, then you work on you after you acknowledge that you've fallen. You work on yourself, you show up for yourself, and you are worth it. Okay? That was the second thing I had to tell myself. I'm worth it. No matter what somebody else says about my name, my character, all of that was defamed already because of what someone else did. And now it's like years later, it don't even matter, because I'm going to hopefully be exonerated from that. And I've still been walking the walk and talking the talk as though, it has never really affected me. But I use this as a platform to share with people the significance of making sure you know who you are living with, who you're in a relationship with, what your children really truly feel deeply inside about you, what your grandchildren feel deeply inside about you, based on the stories that, the generation before told them. These are things that you really, really need to pay attention to. So after we work on ourselves, we move to the learning process. We learn what happened. So me, myself personally, going over to a neighbor's house for dinner, I learned through the eye-opening awakenings in the institution of criminal justice. And I'm not talking about the good side, the educational side. I'm talking about the residential side. I'm talking about the inmate side, right? I learned that by meditating and working on me, journaling, documenting, are those times where inside of the institution, there's a thing called count. And they have to make sure every person's body is accounted for. So they will know if somebody is missing, if someone, and they do it 2 or 3 times a day, okay? So there is a count that takes place. And during this time, you have to sit on your bunk or your bed or your whatever, your personal area, and you have to literally say nothing for like 20 minutes until count clears. So I would use those times to really reflect. Why? Because I was able to grab onto something. the reality of everything that was surrounding me. I was able to think about the day that the scenario took place, the event happened, and before that. And these things, it takes years sometimes, because many, many, many years there were complete blurs of my embarrassing moment. And when I was able to learn everything about it, and I'm still learning about the whatever was voided, I'm able to accept it. And that is part of the acknowledgement process too, accepting that this thing really took place. Accepting that you might have to come home to the same places, people, and things, and you have to elevate yourself even stronger when they're telling you that mental illness is something that is environmental. Mental illness and the substance use and all of that is so addictive. I'm like, oh no. So I have to learn myself. And in learning myself, I ended up presenting to you the final outcome, the brand, the product. I am the brand. I am the product. And in being the brand and the product, I had to learn to be my biggest supporter. And in being your biggest supporter, you're going to find out that people are going to either like you or not. And that's not for you to care about, because you've already acknowledged that the embarrassing moment has taken place. So once you imagine that there's a life outside of that embarrassing moment, now you begin to work on you. You don't point the finger, because when you point the finger, the thumb comes back at you. That's what my grandmother always said. You know, sit back and think about it. If you can't do the time, don't do the crime. But if you are covertly prescribed or laced, you don't have an opportunity to defend yourself. You don't have an opportunity to be a witness for yourself. You don't make that an excuse either. But I guarantee you that the way I'm putting this down to Congress is that my goal is not to make this something that anybody can specifically use. It will be a specific type of person that will use the this initiative globally, because there's too many people dying, too many people being unaware, too many people being psychologically damaged, and it has to be something. It has to be something. So as we move and progress through our embarrassing moments, we take that and we brand it. Embarrassment is not to just be used as a background for someone else to make money off of you because of the abilities of how bad they can taint you. That's what I thought at first. I'm like, oh my God, I just started a success-based program. I branded my mission as a consultant in order to help people succeed. And then I end up facing a 32-year potential bid, all over something that a hater didn't want to see me rise to the occasion, or they didn't want me, or they wanted my passion to be their whatever, their story that they could talk about me with. And that's what happens when people play to be magicians. When they play to want to help you during a depressive moment, and they covertly prescribe to you something unknowing to you, and your body and chemical reaction cannot take it. When you work on yourself and you come back from that, so you got to be a strong-minded person to even get through that. I'm telling you that now. You got to be a strong-minded person to get through that. And then you got to acknowledge that that happened. It's like seeing the bully on the playground acknowledging that they won the fight because you didn't fight back. And then you see them again and they still playing. They still, threatening. They still bullying. Then you got to face that. And you got to acknowledge that they beat you up, but you knew you could. If you had to let everything go, you would have done some damage, but you chose to stay in control, right? Because you had another mission to accomplish. It don't feel good when you acknowledge that your bully, that your narcissistic connect, it's not like you asked them for this stuff. You did not ask them for that. You went over for a specific dinner. You just went over to hang out. And you were given a drink. You were given a little, a joint. Not saying that was wrong or right. I'm saying that, yes, I admit to that. Absolutely, I do. That's why 18 months and 41 days was a calculation of what I feel that the state of Ohio really and truly felt about my case. Otherwise, a 32-year sentence wouldn't have turned into 18 months. At a state facility that, I did a lot of succeeding in. My Emotional Healing Solutions program was literally practiced at Marysville Correctional Institution for the very first time after its copyright from my local university in 2012. It was enacted in the walls of Marysville Correctional Institution in 2016. And it is now available on my YouTube channel under Emotional Healing Steps. Okay? And these are things that I want you to understand, that your embarrassing moment will hold you back to where you will never think about becoming a qualified, certified employment, credentialized individual, or that you take courses to better yourself on a regular, everyday basis, or you enact initiatives to free your name, or you apply for exonerations, or, it's just so many things that you can do, or write about your life, or write about the things that make you happy. See, the embarrassing moment was there to prevent me from doing all of that. And I did all of that after the embarrassing moment. This is how I'm capable and able to speak to you today. So I want you to think about these things. When you're talking about, well, I want to go after that career, but, I got that misdemeanor, or I want to go after that career, but, I got that domestic violence situation. Or, you have to stand up to whatever system bullies you. And when you stand up to that, it's going to make a difference. I never would have thought that coming from that lacing, I would even remember. There was a time I didn't even remember my name when it happened. And then now I'm a doctor of leadership. I am a master's degree individual. I'm a bachelor degree individual of science. I am an associate degree professional. I am moving into certification for peer recovery. I am writing an ebook. I never would, running content creation with over 600,000 views that was even taken away as well. But it don't matter about that. Why? Because it's not in the numbers. I guarantee you, put me up against somebody with 1.5 million views to some groups of people who care about what I speak, who care about their passion, who care about their success, who care about their life. I guarantee you I'm going to hit 1.5, if not more, because there is a lot of wisdom here. There's a lot of unnecessary, having to go through this journey by just listening. But people don't do that anymore. Why? Because the concepts of the perspectives of what used to be are no longer available. Because in this world, this is a new dumbing down of the system. This is the new world order. on a physical level, the New World Order is to assist you into dumbing yourself down, watering yourself down as much as possible so you do not stand out. This is how 98% of society stay blind, deaf, and dumb. And the other 2% of the society makes millions. So think about that. As you go through your journey, as you go through your experiences in this world, just imagine what you could do if you worked on your embarrassing moment without blaming someone else. So I thank you so much for being here. I thank you for being a success stepper in your life. I know it seems like it's not a lot of us, but I guarantee you it is. People just hide behind the narrative in order so they won't look the part. I used to do that as well. Dumb myself down just to be a part of the society in which I was, a product of, but no longer. No longer. So shout out to Congress for giving me the opportunity. Shout out to the Innocence Project for looking towards the Canadian Innocence Project for looking at this thing in a global fashion, not just something that is happening in your neck of the woods or in your backyard or in your city or your township or your, but moving it further so that the initiative can really be global. So look out for the ebook for Dr. Dorina Shine and also the global initiative to enter the global. Wait a minute, I just put it into terminology the other day. It's the Global Intervention and Prevention Act of 2025, where the mission is to work with individuals who have a story to tell, who believes that they have been laced or otherwise, in a more legal term, covertly prescribed without their permission, without their knowing, without their knowledge. So I thank you all so much. We love you, and we will see you next time.